As is traditional, I'm going to start this off with a quick prayer. And so I'm going to ask the Supreme Creative Force to come down and surround us with its wonderful energy, and to use this time to give all of us here in attendance all the energy on all the many different dimensions that we will be on during the course of this lecture, so that we may use it to help bring forth the new reality. So be it. So let us formally begin. As you can see, the title is Galactic Human 101, and that means we're going to go through a plethora of materials and subjects during the course of roughly about an hour and a half, and during that time we will be able, hopefully, to give you an understanding of it all. So let's, as they say, jump off and start the whole thing. So first of all, this is our Earth, and this is where I am, right over here where the red arrow ends, here in beautiful El Dorado Hills, which is just to the west of the city of Sacramento, the capital of California. Now, what I always like to do as well is show you the macrocosm of our reality, our galaxy. But first, an introduction. A great shift in consciousness is now happening to our planet and to ourselves. Realize and understand deeply that you are undergoing many things on both a physical level. You may have aches, you may have pains, you may get blurry vision, you may get headaches, etc. And also the same thing is happening to our planet. Our planet is going through a lot of changes, large earthquakes of an unusual amount and intensities, etc. So let's take this time to explore what this is, these great changes, this shift, and how it's manifesting. Now, these events that I'm going to be talking about, because I'm going to start around my story and go from there, these events were first told to me by many galactic contacts, and verified later by science and the media. So now to the galaxy. This is the Milky Way galaxy. This is a picture of it, and you can see all the different arms. And the one I like about this, which is why I included it here, here's my little arrow. This is the solar system. This is our sun. This is the spur of Orion. There are 9 wonderful arms. There's Perseus, there's Sagittarius, for example. And so what is happening here is you are seeing our galaxy. I like to start from the large part. This is 100,000 light years across. And now let's move on to what we're going to be talking about. Now, Mother Earth is starting a new cycle of increasingly more powerful earthquakes and seabed volcanic eruptions. We've seen these over the last 5-6 years, the amazing amount of earthquakes and seaquakes and the minimum amount of tsunamis. Occasionally, some have gone across. The last major one that we know of course, is the one in 2005 Christmas. Climate change is another sign of how Mother Earth is quickening her timetable. So the Earth's atmosphere is shifting, the seabed and the floor of the ocean is changing. Major governments now in power are ill-equipped to deal with these changes. So we have something that needs to be shifted, something that needs to be changed. A new reality is getting birthed on this planet. Now, not only when we look at our planet do we see the outside, which you've seen probably 1,000,000 times from space, but there is an inside. Earth, like all major planets, all major suns, is hollow. This is a basic example of what we're talking about. This is the planet itself. We'll be discussing it later when we get into inner Earth, but I just wanted you to see that. So onward we go. The various accelerated changes to Mother Earth involve, as I said, seismic and volcanic changes, which are leading to a polar shift. And when I talk about a polar shift, I'm not talking about the Earth flipping its polar, North Pole to South, South Pole to North. I'm talking about a shift from having 2 poles, being a bipolar system, to being a monopolar system. And we'll describe that during the course of this. As I said, a lot of things to be discussed. These alterations can be categorized as either physical or spiritual, mental or emotional changes. And this is happening to ourselves and also to the Earth. For example, we are moving from limited to full consciousness. We are moving from a 7-chakra system, which many of you have seen before, to this 13-chakra system that was given to me. And as you can see, it has some of the same materials. There's our friend. It has the root and the sex and the solar plexus. There are new ones. There's the upper heart, which is the thymus. There's the new diaphragm center. There's in the head a whole bunch of new ones. The well of dreams, the pineal and pituitary centers separating, so the ajna or third eye center is split. And that's to create a sequence system for the well of dreams to become part of our visionary system, because when we're fully conscious beings, what we do is we integrate between heaven, spiritual messages, and physical messages. So we need to know that. And then we need to balance ourselves. So we have a galactic female and galactic male center that makes sure that our body is balanced between its female and male aspects. Now, I'm going to start here from the beginning for most of you who don't know who I am, and give you an idea of who I am by looking at my story and my mission. Now you might ask, who am I, Sheldan Nidle? Well, since I was a toddler, I've had teaching, learning experiences aboard craft. And my sister as well as myself were convinced from all that we went through as children that we were really raised by our space family, which were the Syrians, a magnificent group of beings that I have not encountered the equal of. Now, my initial Syrian guide, and this is way back, when I was less than 1, I have always been odd. My mother calls me, when she was alive, the oddest, weirdest experience in her entire life, because of all the blue lights flashing, people disappearing, large people, the Syrians showing up in my room and in the house, light flashes going through the house, etc. I was educated by the Syrians' marvelous educational technologies in histories, philosophies, and the sciences of both their own reality and of this planet. When I was about 15, because that's when I was a science geek, and I thought I could change science, which was absolutely erroneous, but I thought then. I was very naive when I was a teenager. I asked them to leave because the dichotomy between what I had learned and what science was teaching was so, the chasm was so enormous. I just did not feel that I could embody both of them together. I was hoping later when I got into graduate school I could, but didn't get there, so it never happened. They said that they would return when my mission as messenger was nearly ready to begin, and indeed they did. In the mid to late 1980s they came back. Now, how did I go through all this when I was a kid? Now, what they did was I would get aboard the ship. They would teleport me above it, either into a scout ship, which is what they did most of the time, or directly into the ship itself. And I used to call the place where I'd wind up the mattress factory, because it contained endless rows of mattresses. At least they looked like mattresses to me. They were extremely soft, and whenever you laid on them, you'd go right to sleep. I would get up on the ship. I would be there, or else I would land at one of the bays, and I would be transported by them on a long walk to this huge room. And then they would put me in this chair against this wall. And I would sit down, and all of a sudden, if it was a history lesson, which is shown here, you would suddenly, the wall seemed to disappear in front of you, and in its place was this living history, like a living, walking diorama. As it says here, rapid light pulses coming from the wall contained information, and I could see history. It was like it happened in front of your eyes, literally. And I saw things like the Declaration of Independence being written, the Constitution, all points in history. It was amazing. So I went through all of that, and not only was it history, it was about science, it was about different technologies, it was about the whole concept of how their societies operated, etc. It was a large amount of education. And they said the amount of information that I absorbed just in the first 10 years of doing this every day was the equivalent of a postdoc in about 30 different subjects. So when I said to let go, it was the period just before I graduated in high school, roughly 61, and then again in 64 when I actually graduated. I was asking them to leave, but the Syrians returned in the late 1980s, 86, 87, 88. And I was then given a refresher course by Washta and his team, during which I was told that I would go public with my mission in the early 1990s, and sure enough, I did. My first lectures were in Seattle, where my sister lives, and later in the Bay Area, where I was at that time. Now, the key of all of this, it was called, when I first began the lectures, and even before then, in the late 1980s, it was called by them the Welcoming Home Mission. The purpose of this whole procedure was to welcome the people of Earth back into the Galactic Federation and to use their energies, their beautiful love and light, to allow us, through the technologies that they were putting together and had been given to them by heaven, to bring us from limited to full consciousness. And so this is just a picture that you see here. Now, first contact is imminent and the major turning point in human history. Basically, if you were to look at history, recent history on this planet, it would be divided immediately because of contact into pre-first contact and post-first contact. The most important thing for us to understand is that this shift is not just a physical shift, it's a mental, emotional, and spiritual shift. It's returning us to full consciousness. To do this whole process of moving us into full consciousness requires first that we be prepared for it. Many people look at it and say, oh, it's just a zip. Somebody says a magic word and slaps their hands together or clicks their fingers and you're fully conscious. I'm afraid that is not right. Requires a change in you. So geneticists are discovering, as they look through the human genome, they discovered that when Watson and Crick in the 1950s discovered RNA DNA and got the Nobel Prize for it, what happened was they thought there was a lot of stuff in all the cells. Remember, the genetics are stored in the center of the cell. So they went and they looked inside these things and they discovered that there was more stuff in there, genetic stuff, that wasn't used, and they thought it was a genetic detritus. They thought that it was something that would eventually be lost, that the cells did not really need it, and that all we were is what we are now. This has changed. Another thing that has happened, geologists are discovering that the Earth is indeed changing, and that poles are retreating inside the Earth and moving across the Earth, that the monopolar shift that I mentioned briefly is actually occurring. So I was explaining all of that. And to do that, I created, with the help of a number of wonderful people, an organization that I call the Planetary Activation Organization. Now, PAO was created on Maui, Hawaii in 1997, and actually in November of 1997, to support a four-pole mission. Its purpose is to prepare the world for first contact with the Galactic Federation of Light, to spread the message of the Galactic Federation, to establish a network of planetary activation groups around the world, to promote our role as physical angels and Earth stewards. And to do this, we created planetary activation groups, and they will work in coordination with PAO. Unfortunately for me right now, I've lost those volunteers through death. They passed on, who were in charge of all of this. And so this is kind of faded away. So as I told you about it, one of the things that I want to do with the fundings is to recreate PAGs, create websites for PAGs, do information for PAGs, and allow PAGs, planetary activation groups, to create their own realities, because as it says here, PAGs are inwardly guided and actively involved in awakening people to the global transformation in consciousness. All of this is about to accelerate. This organization needs to be completely reorganized. This is the Umakdan, the symbol of PAO and the symbol of the Galactic Federation's first contact mission on Earth. It is a representation of creation. It's a symbol of creation, and it represents peace and inner strength through unity, the ultimate oneness of humanity. Now, my partner Colleen does the yeoman daily grunt work of answering your many emails and putting together all the wonderful Mad Mimi newsletters that you are sent weekly. One of the things I would ask people who are new, if they wish to receive these wonderful newsletters, is to go to the PAO website, and let me give you that address. You'll see it again at the end of this lecture. It's simply www.paoweb.com. And when you go to paoweb.com, you will see where you can sign up for the newsletters. It's very simple and very easy. You do that, and then you'll be added to our mailing list so that Colleen can do this. And let me tell you, she's one busy girl. I'm very happy that she's here with us. She is a great part of this whole project, and I am so honored that she is a part of this. Now, this is an example of what I wanted to create, and let's just say that parcels and pieces of it exist in this world even today, but they need to be reconnected, and that's one of the things that we have to do once PAO is funded out completely. Now, as I said and continued to say, we need to reevaluate how PAO is organized and how it can relate to helping PHEs organize and operate in their communities. But remember this about us and about this world that is very important. Margaret Mead's wonderful statement that explains my mission in many ways. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Okay, now, let's look in depth now at our history and ET origins, because guess what? We're not from here. Okay, now here's an idea of Earth history. It goes roughly from the setting up of the first civilization on our planet. Now, to get a fuller example and the full story of what I'm about to talk about, the best thing to do is to go to the book, Your First Contact, and I'm going to emphasize the importance of that book. In it, it explains thoroughly all the things that I'm about to talk about, and that way you'll have it in print right beside you. So do not forget to get that book. That book is vitally important to what I'm about to tell you. Now, so let's begin our timeline. I'll explain this to you as we go by so that you get a better idea what this is all about. Now, 35 million years ago, etheric intelligent civilization was on this planet. Indeed, it was throughout this galaxy. About 26 million years ago, there was a dinosaur and reptilian invasion. The reason for that invasion was the whole concept of Inchara and the Inchara continuum. What Inchara and the Inchara continuum are, they represent the dark force energies, the etheric bad guys of this galaxy. And what this galaxy was about was darkness and light eventually coming together to create a greater light. But first there was the darkness, and the darkness went across this galaxy, and if you know anything about Star Wars, you understand what I'm talking about. So, dinosaurian reptilian invasion. On our planet, around 18 million years ago, there came the rise of the pre-cetaceans. Now, one of the things that Washta told me when I was a kid was he said, "You want to see ETs up live and close?" And I said to him, "On this planet? Yeah, where are these things? Where are ETs?" And he said, "Look into your oceans. Look at the cetaceans, the dolphins and the whales, and you will see extraterrestrials. And if you don't want to go all the way to an ocean, look in the mirror, and you'll find another extraterrestrial." And we'll be explaining all of that. Around 10 million years ago, we have the start of the Orion scenario. The Orion scenario, very simply, is when the various dinosaurian and reptilian groups that settled with the pre-cetaceans on Earth were vying for the guardianship of this planet. The Orionites came by, which were reptilians, and told them, these dinosaurians and reptilians, that acting along with the pre-cetaceans to create a guardianship, a stewardship of this planet was wrong. What you needed to do was get rid of the pre-cetaceans. So what happened around 8 million years ago was the destruction of the dinosaurian and reptilian groups. And it took about 2 million years, and the Earth began recovering from that attack. Now what happened was the galactic cetaceans that went out across the galaxy looking for a group that could then be a land guardian, because these groups here, the reptilians and the dinosaurians, were the land guardian groups vying for control. The pre-cetaceans became the cetaceans, the whales and the dolphins, who are the guardians of our planet right now through the oceans. And one of the things that you can do is look in the ancient myths of every major people on this planet, and you will see the story in their mythology, their origin stories, about the great power, the great abilities, and the wonder that are the cetaceans. As a matter of fact, in the early 1970s in Santa Cruz, they had the first cetacean conference. And one guy came from Central Africa, who was a shaman, a very powerful shaman, and he asked for permission to deliver the first great speech, the introductory speech for the conference. So all the experts, the biologists, etc., who are experts on whales and dolphins, were amazed. They didn't know why he'd come all that way to Santa Cruz from Africa and why he wanted to talk. So when he gave the first speech, it was quick and it was simple. He got up to the podium, looked everybody in the eye, looked around, and simply issued a small prayer in his native language and then said the following: "The cetaceans are in our sky, they are in our land, and they are in our oceans, and in every water of the earth." And then he left. What he was simply trying to say was that the cetaceans are the great guardians of our planet right now. So roughly around 4 million, actually more closer to 4.5 million years, the Galactic Federation was formed. The Earth was selected by the Federation for seeding. What we're going to be telling a story of shortly is how the Galactic Federation came to be through the aspect of it that are the humans. But what we're talking about now is Earth. We've kind of put a blinder on the history here, and I'm going to keep it that way for now. The first great civilization of humans on this planet was Hibernia, which simply means the Great Northern Land. Hibernia was destroyed by the Encharans 1 million years ago, as was Mars and Venus. 900,000 years ago, the Galactic Federation came back with human colonies and created Lemuria 900,000 years ago. Now let's move on. Humans come from a star system, a planetary star system, that is about 26 million light years away from us. It is the brightest star in Lyra constellation. As I said, it's 26 light years away, and it's called Vega. And to the astronomers, it is Alpha Lyrae, which means the major star in Lyra. Now, it's a little bit different than our star. It's a great blue star. I find it interesting that all the great civilizations of humans wind up around blue stars. So the polar surface, you'll see the difference between our sun. You'll see how it's slightly bigger, a little more different in how it operates. But it's a star, and that's all we really need to know right now. And this is where we came from. This is at 25.1 light years away, roughly. Some people say 26. And this is where we are. This is Earth. We were colonized after Sirius was colonized. And these are the various strongholds at that time. Remember, there was a war going on. Galactic humans and their allies disagreed with the dinosaurians and the reptilians' claim to the entire galaxy. This resulted in the Galactic War. I've always stated that what Lucas was talking about with his war, and he just made it a galaxy far, far away. Actually, it's a galaxy quite, quite near. It's our own. Humans evolved in the third planet from the blue star Vega, and we eventually became aquatic apes. What humans achieved 6 million years ago was full consciousness. They were accelerated by a series of processes which took a while. It wasn't instantaneously. And then humans finally reached this solar system some 2 million years ago. I'm going to keep this sweet and simple right now, because if I keep talking like I am right now, I won't make it through all this information. So what I want to do here is give you a touch of everything that hopefully will explore the curiosity in every one of you to just want to understand all of this. Remember, if you look at humans and you really study their genetics, you discover that they have very odd gene pairs which separate them from other animals on this planet, because we aren't from this planet. The apes that exist on this planet are not our ancestors. They are quite different. For instance, if you take a 6-week-old, any ape, gorilla, chimpanzee, I don't care what kind you pick, put them in the water, they will instantly sink and drown. Put a human the same age, they'll float. They'll learn how to swim. Humans can breathe underwater when they're young. Apes cannot. And I can go on and on and on. We are aquatic, ape-like creatures that were given full consciousness. The detritus that Crick and Watson discovered is actually kind of the remnants of all the stuff needed, all the genetic materials needed to make us fully conscious again. How this stuff was not kept in sequence and alive and encoding in our system is another story in itself, and we'll get to a part of that also. I want you to begin to see, to look, to feel, to hear inside yourself intuitively that what I'm talking about is not some weird story. It's a story about who and what we are, where we came from, and where we're going. It's a story about who we are, including our ancient history and where we're going right now. We're in the midst of a great period of change. Any one of you probably wakes up with some headaches, blurry vision, strange and weird pains that when you go to the doctor and they do all kinds of thorough tests on you, they can't determine what it is. It's not some strange anomaly happening within you. It is the energies of creation changing you, preparing you for the final great change, that great, incredible metamorphosis that is going to shift you from being a limited conscious being to be a being that is one with heaven, that lives in a world of both spirit and a world of physicality. And this is who the beings were that came here 2 million years ago and again came back 900,000 years ago. This is our solar system. It is not the same as it was millions of years ago. It has changed. The asteroid belt, let me get my little arrow here. The asteroid belt is the remnants of the fourth great water world. At one time, Earth existed with a bunch of water worlds. There was Venus, there was Earth, there was Mars, and there was the planet that now is a mess, the asteroid belt. The future name of it is Pax. The name that most people, when they learn about it and see its history, they call it Marduk. Excuse me. So let's move on. Let's now explore this. I've given you an idea that we aren't from here. We are very special creatures. We are aquatic apes with genetic pairings and a detritus of materials in our genetic core that shows that we're different. We're amazingly different. We're not the same in any way. So let's look at this. One of the first people to discover this was a Canadian professor in genetics, and his name was Professor Sam Chang. And he began to see, as they looked through this whole human genome, that what we see in our DNA is a program consisting of two versions, what they call the big code and the basic code. The big code is currently inactive or is dormant DNA program. This creates our fully conscious selves. Then there's the basic code, and that's who we are right now. It's currently our active DNA program. This creates who we are, a limited conscious human. Now remember this, big code, basic code. As you begin to study what geneticists are looking at, you begin to see deeply that indeed these two things are coming together. So one of the things happened was a crew was looking at this term junk DNA, and it began to look, this is a group from IBM, and they discovered that there are parts of the genome, this is specially coded proteins, all the things that are our DNA are protein chains. The basis of these motifs in the junk DNA suggested that portions of the genome may have an important functional role. And so what happened was people at the labs around the world were beginning to discover that this so-called junk DNA is more than what people think of. Watson and Crick in the early 50s, when they discovered RNA DNA, thought that this junk DNA was dead. Well, it wasn't. It was living. It was forming structures, specific and important structures that have a role. As Dr. Isidore Rakulsis said from IBM, these regions, meaning these structures, may indeed contain structures that we haven't seen before because they are living, they're encoding. Another group looking at this in Europe discovered that a close-up view of the human genome has revealed its innermost workings to be far more complex than first thought. Now, just looking at 1% of all of this stuff, they discovered that the so-called junk DNA was weaving together an intricate control network. And these works were published in the journals Nature and Genome Research. And the Encyclopedia of DNA Elements study was a collaborative effort between 80 organizations from around the world. And the most important part of this is what not only the Sanger Institute came up with, but what the Russians came up with. As Dr. Tim Hubbard, one of the leading geneticists in the world from the Wellcome Sanger Trust Institute, which is at Hingston, England, said, we are now seeing the majority of the rest of the genome is active to some extent. So what is happening is encoding is happening with this junk DNA. It is encoding to the main part. Remember the two codes we talked about. Let me go back a bit and so you can understand that. There was the big code, which is what makes us fully conscious humans, and the basic code, our everyday code. So what is happening now is the big code is creating structures within it right now, and these structures are encoding. They're talking to the basic code. So suddenly what is happening is geneticists are discovering that the whole process of who and what we are is a lot more complex than we may think. So let's move forward. Now the next step then came with the Russians. The Russians, which were led by a group, Grazna Fossar and Franz Bludorf, and they were working out and created a book. And they simply said in their book, which was of course written in Russian, the human DNA is a biological internet. We are constantly broadcasting these encodements not only to our DNA genomes, but to each other. A network of such encoding, of such messages, is going on daily. And this influences and reprograms who we are. So Russian scientists and linguists discovered that genetic codes follow the same basic rules in all human language. In effect, they believe that the nature of the encodement in certain groups of people can create a reflection which comes out as language. So Russian groups speak Russian, English groups speak English. Human DNA, thus, is a biological internet, as we've just said, with evidence that DNA can be influenced and reprogrammed by words and by frequency. This suggests that our DNA is not only responsible for the building of our bodies, but also serves as a data storage and communication system. Human language, thus, as we have been just indicating, did not appear coincidentally, but as a mirror of how this DNA was processing. So this is our regular, whoops, this mouse works very strange sometimes. So I'm going to try to not touch any part of it except the back and get here. This is your regular cell, as Watson Crick discovered. What is happening now, especially in young children that as they are moving through their development, we discovered that they are activating a third strand. This is what this is. So we are having active genetic mutations occurring. These are all about creating consciousness. So what we need to understand as we look at all of this is, okay, evidence shows that we are not from here. Evidence further shows that we have aquatic origins from whenever we were. The other thing is, we are now mutating back to what we were. Now, so what does this look like? This is 12-strand RNA DNA, which is the 12th strand of a fully conscious being, and it creates what a combination is called a star tetrahedron, a 12-sided figure. So what would happen with this figure is it represents circuits. And remember, all our RNA DNA is protein strands. These strands are mutating right now. And when the mutation is finished, when our metamorphosis is done, our genetic structures, our basic genetic structures, will look similar to this. So we are changing as human beings on a cellular basis and also as an individual. We are changing not only our physical, as the DNA does, but our mental, emotional aspects and our spiritual aspects are all coming together in strange and weird ways to allow all of us to become fully conscious beings of light, because that's where it's supposed to be. Now, one of the things that has been happening and is vitally important to all of this is star seeds. And I have a whole section on star seeds in my website. But I want to explain to you what star seeds are, and this will begin the explanation. As it says here, star seeds are individuals who feel excitement and longing about learning that might have originated from another world, because they are from another world. One of the things that I experienced, and I found when I got to talk to a lot of contactees, is that they experience aloneness and separateness. They see humans not as a social interaction. They see them as sense. And this sense as a starseed is of being a foreigner on this planet. I have felt like a foreigner for most of my life. They found the behavior and motives of our society puzzling and illogical. I could never figure out humanity. I still can't. I'm better at it than I was when I was this age, 20s and 30s, but not much different in my 60s. Starseeds are often most reluctant to become involved in the institutions of society, that is, political, economic, healthcare, etc. Even at an early age, they learn to discern the hidden agendas of such conventions. How does society work? What's the secrets behind it? We're pretty good at figuring that out. Now, let's look at starseeds and why they came here. Why did suddenly you pick up spiritually, so to speak, your packet and move to this place. They are evolved beings from another world, another galaxy, another star system. Their mission is to assist us to bring in this new golden age, this age of full consciousness. If you check at children, children really understand the change. They sense it. They experience it. I could tell you all kinds of stories about indigo or crystal children. I'm not going to right now. But just know these marvelous young beings have come here for two purposes. One, to assist us, and two, to actually be guardians in helping us to change. One of the things that happens at a certain stage as this mutation that I've been talking about happens is that the genes of these starseeds begin to be encoded with a wake-up call, and then they activate. And it happens at a certain time in life. They may be going along completely oblivious to all what I've been talking about, and suddenly, bing, the light goes on, the bells get sounded, and they begin to have an immense interest in all that I've been explaining to you. So what is happening with starseeds? They have come here to bring this galaxy, to bring the stars to us with all the wisdom and oneness that is a part of it. So just remember, your awakening as a starseed, as you awaken, can be gentle and gradual or quite dramatic and abrupt. In either case, some memory of who and what you are is restored. It allows you to take up your mission, to see who you are and what you need to do. You have a much easier connection to your higher self, and this permits you to be largely guided by your inner knowing and the inner knowing of your higher selves. Many starseeds, as it says here, have practiced rapid spiritual weight loss. They can throw off in a few years the limiting behavior patterns and fears of other Earth humans, and they're ready. They don't need lifetimes because they've done it in similar missions on other planets. They're ready to do this. So when they are told about starships, intergalactic travel, psychic phenomenon, etc., to them it is natural and logic. They support it. They are willing to voraciously read about it, see documentaries, etc., attend lectures. They want to know about who they really are and to give that information to the world. And so many of you have come here wondering, who am I? You're a starseed. You're here to help shift this planet from the limited consciousness it now exists in. What do we mean by limited consciousness, in case you're saying to yourself, what does this mean? Limited consciousness simply means that you are limited by what you see or feel in the physical. You make up concepts about the spiritual, but you really don't know about it. It's a veil around it. In full consciousness, that veil goes away, and all the information and logic that is, and wisdom that is there is like a person hungry to eat special fruit is there for you to pick it and eat it. And that's what you are doing. So this great shift in our reality, why is it happening now? Why not some other time? As it just says here, you're in the midst of a great shift in your conscious reality. Let's move on and get a better idea of what this all means. It means, as we've been saying, that you're in the midst of a great shift in your mind, in your body, and in your spirit. You are right now in the midst of a great awakening of spiritual interest in this life. It's not just about the rebirth of interest in religions. It's more than that. Many start that way but go beyond it. It's about what is the basis of these religions, what do they mean, how do they relate to me, how do they relate to the societies I reside in, what does all that mean to our future, where are we going? You become searchers, explorers, and as you learn, you become way showers for your society. That's what's happening right now. So let's let's continue. So as this all happens, you're noticing shifts in your chakras. You're noticing shifts in your aura. Things are changing. As you can see here, this is a wonderful little animation, and I think it gives you a better idea what we're talking about. You are changing, and that's actually what auras look like. They're constantly flying in and out, light, dark, etc. And there's a shift in all of it. As I showed you at the beginning with the 13 chakra system, the new chakras are being gradually integrated into a new whole, your new you, as I like to call it. The transformation operation is approaching the point for direct physical adjustments. That means, by your mentor, I mean your galactic and spiritual mentor. Just before you change your metamorphosis, like a butterfly from a caterpillar. Only you're moving from a limited conscious caterpillar to a fully conscious immortal butterfly. Now this is who you are right now. A traditional 7-chakra system that extends from your root and sex chakras to your solar plexus, all the way up to your heart, throat, your third eye, your ajna center, and your crown. This is the traditional distribution, as it says here, of the body's energy system. But we're changing. This is the end result of this change, the 13 chakra system that we explained at the beginning. Now what is happening is things are going on in your 7 chakra system to transfer it into the 13 chakra system. So as you look at this, the diaphragm is still being adjusted in most people. Eventually it will become a brand new chakra system. The diaphragm is where all your fears and upsetnesses, where you hold this energy. One of the things that Wilhelm Reich discovered was that when you apply your hands, your fingers, to the diaphragms in the right way and breathe continually in breaths that are, and what some people call it Zen breaths, some people call it meditation breaths, in channeled, connected breaths, you begin to see this energy moving backwards and forwards throughout you. You go through heat and sweat and everything like that. But when you finish it, you feel so much better. Why? Because we have released, using this technique, we have released the energies that you have, in many cases from childhood, on your diaphragm. Another thing that's happening is the thymus center, the upper heart chakra, is beginning to open up. When you're first born, your thymus center, which represents your immune system, is one of the largest organs in your body. By the time you become an adult, it's like the size of an almond. It's really small. So what is happening as part of this transformation? It is becoming bigger again. Your immune system is growing stronger. And then when you get into your head, you see how the chakra system there is moving from something that controls thought to something that controls the energies of heaven, so that your higher self, your I am presence, can communicate directly with you. So the head chakras are opening up. The key to all of this is the visionary center, the so-called 8th chakra, which is right up here, the back of your head, around your brainstem, and it's called the well of dreams. It's called that because it will communicate. Where's my little friend? There he is. I have this sticky little system here, and you probably see it flying around, and I don't. And what it does, it takes the third eye, which now has been broken up into 2 sections, and communicates with them, kind of like a projector system. So you begin to change, you begin to communicate, you begin to discover. Your body becomes more than just a caught system, it becomes a fluid system. It becomes a changing system. And this is what happens. This is the full system. And as you look at it, this is a pain with me. Okay, there it is. So down here, your heart pains and odd breathing episodes can sometimes occur, but what it's doing is the heart is separating from the thymus. The heart is becoming stronger. It is becoming the true center. One of the things that scientists and doctors, especially who are in medicine, who are studying the heart, they've discovered that the heart, much as the ancient Greeks thought, the heart has a nervous system in it equivalent to your brain. It's very complex. The electricity in the heart is as complex and as powerful as that in the brain. Your heart, as the ancient Greeks thought, was the center of your soul. Heart energy represents the spiritual, full conscious energy. The brain represents the limited conscious energy. Its job is to collect energies up in here. It's to collect energies so that it can be funneled to the heart, the fully potentialized heart. Because all decisions in a fully conscious being come from the heart in all the meanings that humanity has given it in all the many languages that you hear this expression in. So you become a person of heart, a person also of mind. But it is heart over mind, not the other way around in a fully conscious being. So we are changing. We are becoming servants of heaven. We are becoming stewards of planets, of star systems, and of galaxies. We are becoming fully conscious beings. This is an example of what we talked about with the head chakras. This is the well of dreams. Let me get my thing here. Here we go. This is the well of dreams. This is the Ajna center broken down into its two centers. So our DNA is transmuting both the number of strands from 2 to 3 to 12 and its basic epigenetic components. Now let me describe to you what we talk about when we talk about epigenetics. Epi simply means above. We have discovered that spiritual and emotional episodes, especially those that are very strong, let's say the death of somebody that you're very close to, let's say a disease factor, a pandemic of some sort that you pass through. You remember this. You blueprint it into your genetics. You control your genetics. You switch on and off certain genetic sequencing. How this occurs and how it has changed, this is called epigenetics. It's a science that really has come to the fore in the last 5 to 10 years. So what is happening? Not only do we have epigenetics happening in our genetic system, not only do we have this switch on going between the heart and the brain, the nervous system is also commingling with the meridian system. One of the things as you begin to go through this whole process of how does the nervous system operate is you begin to see that as you move toward a shift in consciousness, it becomes more complex. That's why more chakras show up. You are moving from a simple organism of consciousness to the most complex in the universe. You are becoming a being of true conscience and of true potential. You are becoming a being in which the moralities, the wonderful concepts of heaven become not just a bunch of words, but become what is your guidance, what you do every day. So the result is that the old Ajna center, the pituitary and the pineal, separate. And the purpose of it is this system, the well of dreams, comes and it works together with all of this so that it can create and interpret your dreams and your visions. And it's further added to by the crown chakra. And all of this heads down through the nervous system to the heart. Thus, the new nervous system is one that can react to stimulus that you cannot now perceive. When you become fully conscious, you'll have a synthesia. Synthesia is simply bringing together color in all its different wonders, words and sound together, so that your stimulus is based upon that. Right now, you can't hear words as color. You can't see sounds as not just vibrational patterns, but as actual colors. All of that is coming, and we'll talk about that when we get to the next section, which is about full consciousness. And all 206 meridians are to become active and one with your present sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. You are rewiring yourself. That's why a lot of people are going through aches and pains and don't understand it. This is just a concept of the meridian system and the system that works with it. It's collaterals. And I'm not going to get into the nature of it. Just know that all this system comes together to create a system not only with your organs, but also with your nerves, to create an organ-nerve system of electrical interference and sympathy between one part of the body and another that helps you to better understand who you are and what's going on in your body and to cure it, maintain it. Now, the divine plan has moved up the schedule for our move into full consciousness. Thus, we have become on the verge of first contact and the dawning of a new reality. So let's look at what's going on with our surface world here. Earth changes. Mother Earth is determined to alter her surface features by returning to what she looked like at the time of Lemuria. This means that she needs to raise up 3 lost continents: Lemuria in the Pacific, Atlantis in the Atlantic, and Greater Sri Lanka in the Indian Ocean. And just remember, I always tell this to people, why did they call it the Atlantic Ocean? Because if you take the ancient Greek, Atlantic simply refers to Atlantis. That's what the ik means. So we have the Atlantic Ocean, where Atlantis was, and the other. So let's get a better look at this. And not only is that happening, but as I said, we're having a polar shift. The South Pole is retreating inward toward the Earth's central sun, the core of the Earth, which is roughly around 800 miles across. And you can just look at this. This is the way the Earth geology. We'll shortly look at it. I could go into the whole stories of how tectonic plates happened and how all the people involved with it were laughed at until now they are the core of geology. The same thing is happening here. When we get to disclosure, people will discover all that we're talking about, and we'll see that this map is not just a funny chart, but is a scientific one. Now, this is what we're talking about. 3 new continents: Lemuria in the Pacific, Atlantis in the Atlantic, and Sri Lanka in the Indian Ocean. This is Ceylon, which today calls itself Sri Lanka, but the actual Sri Lanka is this thing. It now lies on the floor of the Indian Ocean. Many geologists in India have looked around and seen that actually this continent exists. It exists in the floor of the Indian Ocean, a memory of what once was high above the sea. This is where the true ancient myths, the great sacred tales of ancient India that are the basis of modern Hindu research are real. The Mahabharata is not just a story, it's a history. Each of these 3 continents are to occupy a large part of what is now empty sea. This is why Mother Earth's surface is to be equally divided between ocean and continents. And also, as we get the firmament back, and we'll explain what that is shortly, as you get the firmament back, the climate changes from semi-tropical, from the temperate open atmosphere, to semi-tropical from pole to pole. We have a torn atmosphere right now. Now, there are also inland seas existing. So I'm going to go over the Earth changes here for you, and then you'll get a better idea of what the Earth will look like again. The major seas. This is the sea that exists today where the Rocky Mountains are. There's the Canadian Rockies and there's the American Rockies. This is the inland sea, known as Lake Draconis. It's the origin of the Sahara, and even to this day, if you dig far enough down into the Sahara, you will find the remnants of Lake Draconis. There's water down there, lots of water. And then in the Himalayas, roughly here, you have the third great inland lake, the lake that has all kinds of traditions with it as well. That's why at the top of the Himalaya mountains are found fossils from the ocean bottom. That's where it once was, the bottom of this inland sea. Now the largest of these seas, as I just said, was Lake Draconis, and in former times it was there. As a matter of fact, it's hard to believe today, but the grain belt of ancient Rome was North Africa. And if you look around at the rocky portions of the central Sahara Desert, you will find petroglyphs, human petroglyphs. At one time, what is now desert was grand meadows filled to the brim with wildlife. And the nature of this wildlife is depicted by these ancient petrographs, and they're found throughout North Africa. We live in a world that will be again what it once was. Not a world that we know, but a world that once was and will again be what it looked like. Deserts will be gone, and for a large part. The desertification of going on in Africa and in Asia, especially in China and in sub-Saharan, northern part of sub-Saharan Africa, will be gone. Water, which is now so scarce on this planet, will become just the opposite. We are about to evolve, planet Earth is about to evolve, new concepts of reality, the inner core being not solid but hollow, an inner world is what is happening. And of course this talks about the Himalayan one, North India, extending into what is today parts of Tibet and various other mountain kingdoms of above North India. Drinky poo coming, sorry for this. Okay. So if you look at the Himalayas, you go up there in the top and you find large deposits of ocean salt. These were once parts of huge salt seas. And finally, this talks about the sea in the United States. This lies the remnants of the inland sea which once connected to the Gulf of California. And this sea is to be resurrected. Now, one of the things necessary for us to understand is the nature of our atmosphere. This describes the firmaments. The firmaments once existed and were maintained by, as this is a symbol of, large water temples that existed around the world. Now, half of the firmament one, which is the lowest firmament, was collapsed when Atlantis was destroyed. The firmament was artificially restored by the Libyan Egyptian Empire in 9,400 BC. We have to realize that life, advanced civilization exists. If you look at the Egyptian king list, it doesn't start at 6,000 or 3,000 or 2,000 BC. It starts at 50,000 BC. This is a time we're talking about when there were two firmaments above the earth. As a matter of fact, the last of the firmaments were completely destroyed around 4,000 BC during the Rama-Libyan Egyptian War that resulted in the Great Flood. Now, let's move on. Now, the Union is of over 200,000 star nations and confederations. The Galactic Federation was founded just over 4.5 million years ago. Its divine purpose which was to act as physical angels to fulfill the prophecies made long ago for this galaxy, namely total galactic peace, and that's what's now being done out there as we speak. But the key to all of this is us. First contact, mission 1, to return humanity to full consciousness after first contact. That's the main thing that I've been talking about for a long time. Now, as you've seen the changes happening to your chakra system, as you see the changes happening to your neurological system, as you see the changes happening to your physiological system, as you see the changes happening as your growth in spiritual awareness, as you see the change in your emotional attitude about the world and yourself, as all of this comes through you, understand deeply within yourself that this is all part of our shifting into full consciousness. Some it's affecting more than others. Some have more physiological problems than others. Some of these physiological problems turn into real problems that need a medical answer to. Some of the medical answers happen and help, but the majority of it is just change, ascension process, as some of us would call it. No amount of medical can change that. It will just delay certain things or make it easier for you to exist. But the Galactic Federation has come here and is around us. If you look up in the night sky, what you will see are twinkly little stars moving around like falling leaves. These are the ships of the Galactic Federation. They are here not just to observe us, they're working on us. They're looking at us. Now, approximately 40% of all those ships are humanoids, humans. The rest are varied forms of sentient beings. To give you an idea what this spread means, look around at all life that exists as animals in this particular world. Know that there is some derivation of it as a sentient being existing somewhere in this galaxy. Plus, most of the members of the Galactic Federation are fully conscious beings. Not all of them are, but some of them are not. There's about 20% that are not fully conscious, but are going to get there. And a lot of them were added. It makes it up to 20%. It's because they represent the people of the Inchara Federation, the part of the Inchara continuum that became a part of the Galactic Federation when peace was first declared by Inchara in 1995. So this is Agartha, Inner Earth. Let's look at its name so you can get an idea of what it's about. Artha means in Lemurian earth, Ag means inner. So Agartha simply means inner earth. This is an illustration. This shows you remember it's 800 miles across in this shell, and the center of gravity, the shift from the center being toward the surface or the center being toward the inner world, occurs here at around 400 miles. And you can see it being drawn over there. And the inside is the central sun, the core of the Earth, and around it, just as on the outside, are continents, oceans, mountains, etc. I showed this picture just to explain that inner Earth envoys are building field for shift. They are coming forth to help us change. That's their mission, and to be in divine service to do. Oops. We have around us incredible beings, most with a great deal of resources to deal with. These powerful individuals are aligning themselves globally with one another so that the light can shift. I call this first phase enlightened humanity. These exist of associated groups of secret societies and networks of very wealthy, influential individuals. Earth allies were the holders of the light of ancient Lemuria, and they have held this Lemurian knowledge for nearly 13 millennia. The Earth Allies, the sacred secret societies, are the good guys, the ancient ones. They look like us, but they are already in positions of power, and they exist within governments around this world, the military around this world, Fortune 500 corporations, religious organizations, financial institutions, and they are by themselves private and influential individuals. Their job right now is to work with the Galactic Federation, to work with the Agarthans to create a new reality. It's happening. They react and work cooperatively, as I said, with the Galactic Federation of Light and the Ascended Masters. Their purpose is to assist us in our transition from limited to full consciousness. And they're also setting the foundations for Earth's new galactic society. Now, not only do we have these marvelous Earth people who are using their influences, working with the Ascended Masters, we also have the spiritual hierarchy in divine service working to change this world for the light. So we have the spiritual hierarchy of this planet, and it's a sacred structure that represents all of the holy lineages of heaven. It consists of angelic realms, devic kingdoms, ascended masters, orders of Elohim, and divine councils of the Time Lord. Heaven, simply when I talk about it, simply is the spiritual realms. The names of these spiritual beings are not that important because the merits of each message from them must be discerned from within each person. Don't just, because you hear something from somebody, take it as the God's truth. Discern it. Discernment, and when you get to many of my webinars and lectures, I give meditations for discernment. One of the things that is essential for humans is to be able to discern what's happening. This discernment is the key to having a better understanding of what all of this reality that we're in and this transition that we're going to is about. This gives you an example, kind of a group of the Ascended Masters. I got a nice collage so that you can see all of them. They are magnificent beings of light. Their purpose is to aid all of us in creating this new reality. Now, there's a process that we will go through. I've been hinting at it all the way through this. There's a process that we will go through to create our new galactic human self. So, what we all need to know is all of us are moving from the 3D limited conscious reality to a 5D fully conscious reality. This process is called by most of us as ascension. So, what is happening? Ascension means that there are changes occurring to our reality. Our core perceptions are broadening. This is the spiritual shift that I've been talking about. We are seeing glimpses of other realities in our dreams or briefly in our peripheral vision. As you become higher in frequency, and the body frequency, the primary energies at which our entire physical self is vibrating at, is going up. As it does this, it allows your eyes from time to time, when they sync and that vibrational pattern is just right, that you may catch somebody in the corner of your eye for maybe a second, maybe 3, and then they'll disappear. Or you may hear a name said, or beings will say your name loud and clear. They're just awakening you to your spiritual self. Also, we are becoming more sensitive to pollutants in our atmosphere, in our environment, in our water. We are beginning to see that purity is not only about the body or the spiritual essence changes that are happening to us. More importantly, it means that changes are occurring in ourselves. For instance, we are moving more and more away from violence in our movies and television programming. They still keep turning it out, but more and more people are not listening to it in the same occurring period as normal. Now let's talk about this actual process of the shift to full consciousness. Now all this will occur after the landings occur. Your mentors, meaning your beings from either the Galactic Federation or from Inner Earth, will go over what to be expected in the light chambers. Fundamentals of telepathic communications are going to be taught at that time to everyone. We have to get ready to being more than just what we talk, what we say. We have to realize that our entire essence is really about telepathy. We're really natural telepathic beings. We've just cut it out from ourselves. We need to put it back in. And then when we get close to the chambers, they will give us a training device that almost replicates full consciousness to help you experience what it's like and get you ready for it. Now, let's move on. So where we'll be going is here, Agartha. Agartha is a 5D reality. Agartha is actually inner Earth, and it's much bigger than outer Earth. Do not get the assumption that Agartha is some large set of caves. It looks just like our place that we're used to, the surface of our planet. The only difference is there's no night and there's no stars. Except for that, it looks just like where we are, except that everything's a lot more vivid, because as you go up in dimensions, the colors become more bright, more beautiful. Now, when we move to our inner Earth homes to prepare for this, the crystal cities that you are to occupy are found throughout inner Earth. And the living quarters have been modified to contain a section that has your metamorphosis light chamber in it, as well as special training rooms. Once you arrive, you are to meet your galactic human mentor. The device, as it says here, the metamorphosis chamber is in a room whose color changes according to the auric energy of the person in the room. Think of the chamber as a crystallisis or cocoon that cradles you with a gentle, loving energy while you sleep and transform to a younger, more evolved you. So let's look at this. 3 days that change you forever. When you reach a maximum balance for all your body's functions and needs, this youthening process stops. So every day for the 3 days, you balance yourself. As you balance, you get younger, because aging is a process that was added as part of limited consciousness. So you don't age, you only youth. So when you reach a section where your body functions are balanced, in other words, your divine male and your divine female are balanced in your body, the light then starts to integrate all your new chakras and reactivate all that RNA DNA, all that junk RNA DNA. It becomes encoded. It becomes a part of your system. You transmute into that star tetrahedron RNA DNA 12-strand that we talked about. And this causes a huge body-wide cascade of hormones, proteins, etc. You no longer are that limited conscious being. You have, like the butterfly, you have evolved into a being that can now do the equivalent of flying. This gives you an idea of the 3 stages we're talking about. Stage 1, you connect your gold cord and silver cord. Your general pink ambience surrounds your body. This is the change, the pink. Stage 2, the outline of whitish, yellowish glow around the body. This is the new aura, the fully conscious aura, the one that can go anywhere, the one that encompasses your Merkaba, the one that encompasses your way to heaven. Stage 3, the deep glow and full spectrum colors around your body. This is the magic of the living light. You become fully conscious. As your new abilities come online, you begin a deep review of this life, the one you're in right now, and all your past lives. You have started to become a galactic human. You will know when you walk out of this metamorphosis light chamber, you will be a being who knows the thousands of lives that you have been at. It will become as simple as reading a book that you had to memorize. After this review, you will receive a series of lessons from your spiritual guides on who you are and what spiritual family you are a part of. The angelics of the great boards of heaven, the great administrations of heaven that are a part of who you are, will come to you and explain to you who you are in terms of your two things that people want to know. Who is your spiritual family and what is your lineage? You will know that. It will give you full access to your Akashic records and all the spiritual aspects of it. At this point, you telepathically connect with your galactic human mentors and receive some preliminary lessons on your abilities. Remember, you have been in a deep sleep, and now telepathically, because your mind has shifted and it is now a telepathic universe, you begin to work with not only your spiritual selves, your spiritual families that have come to you from heaven, but also with the galactic human mentors. And you receive some lessons in how to monitor your abilities. Still asleep, you start to merge with your environment on levels that you cannot previously thought possible. You are becoming galactic human. You will merge and learn that we are all one. You are in awe over what you have become. The chamber will open, and as you just saw, you'll be greeted by your mentors. You hug them and walk away ready to begin your final group of trainings. Okay. The trainings, after that you've been calmed down, because this is a very special time. It's very intense. So for 7 to 10 days, you receive a very intense training on what I like to call galactic human etiquette. If you receive a monster amount of telepathy, how do you screen for that which you want? Explain. You work on it. You discover how to constantly quiet your mind, how to communicate with others and your spiritual guides. You learn how to read your life contract. It's time to fulfill your spiritual aspects, your true physical and spiritual aspects. So you need to know what your contract was. Why are you here? And now that you're back to being fully conscious, what does that mean? What's that all about? So you go forth and you begin to learn, as it said, psychic etiquette training. You learn to manage your thoughts. For your safety and the safety of others, avoid expressions. Okay? This was Miriam's humor when she did her drawing. She's a very funny person. Now, the trainings. You are taught how to manifest and undo what you desire. You learn it. There's an instant edification here. So you have to learn that whatever you think is real. So you have to understand by receiving a class on who you truly are and how to respect other galactic humans. Respect of other galactic humans is very important. Honoring is a very important part of galactic society. You rediscover ritual and what your sacred duties are as a galactic human. You are given time to blend these various talents that you have into a social fabric. After the training, the Elohim and Special Galactic Federation engineers are to terraform Mars and Venus. They're even going to bring packs, what we know, most of us know as Maldeck, together. And those of us who now know our contracts will know where we go, so we will then go there. Together, all of this is to become a solar system that develops into a new star nation. Galactic humans possess what is a very rare condition on Earth. It is called enhanced synesthesia. It allows one to fully experience sounds as colors and taste. Colors likewise have a sound and a taste. Taste has a color and a sound. Added to these sensations are all the so-called psychic ones. So we discover that Sirians simply absorb their environment. Pleiadians and Centaurians interact with their environment, and Andromedans work to improve their environment. I'm not going to go over all of this because it's getting kind of late here, and I could spend another 10 minutes on this. I'm not going to. Galactic humans are motivated and oriented towards spiritual growth and wisdom. There are no aspirations for material gain or power. Galactic humans believe in living in the now and doing what brings them joy. So this is how you get a hold of us. And so, having explained a lot of things to you, I will now allow my wonderful lady to come back and give you some important information. So take it away, my dear.
Okay. Thank you, Sheldan. So
Thank you. Thank you, my dear. I
take
didn't
a
know
drink
whether...
of water.
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
Yeah, that was quite a presentation. So, just remember that by attending this webinar, your RNA DNA is being activated. So memories stored in your DNA are being triggered. So thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it, and please tell all your friends.